Someone across the room yawns. You did not see it happen on purpose. You were not even looking directly at them. But somehow, within seconds, you feel it too. A stretch behind your jaw, a pull at the back of your throat, and before you can stop it, you yawn. You did not choose this. It happened to you. And if you think about it for more than a second, that should feel strange. Why would your body copy a stranger's yawn automatically, without permission, like a reflex borrowed from someone else's nervous system? The easy answer is that yawning is contagious because it is tiring or boring or because the room is stuffy. But that is not the real answer. The real answer is far stranger. Contagious yawning is not really about tiredness at all. It is about something ancient, something social, and something that reveals just how connected your brain is to the people around you, whether you want it to be or not. Let's start with the yawn itself. A yawn is one of the oldest behaviors in the animal kingdom. Fish yawn, birds yawn, dogs, cats, snakes, even some reptiles yawn. This is a behavior that predates humans by hundreds of millions of years. For most of that time, yawning had nothing to do with social contagion. It was simply a way to regulate the brain. Researchers have found that yawning helps cool down the brain. When you yawn, you take in a large breath of cooler air, and the stretching of your jaw increases blood flow to your face and head. Some scientists, including Andrew Gallup, who has studied yawning extensively, propose that this cooling effect helps the brain shift states, moving you from drowsiness toward alertness or helping regulate temperature when the brain is running slightly too warm. So yawning on its own is not mysterious. It is basic brain maintenance. But contagious yawning, the kind that spreads from person to person, is a different phenomenon entirely. And it does not show up everywhere in the animal kingdom. It shows up almost exclusively in highly social species. Chimpanzees catch yawns from each other. So do dogs. And remarkably, dogs can catch yawns from humans. Wolves in close-knit packs show yawn contagion at higher rates between animals with strong social bonds. And humans? Humans are some of the most susceptible yawn catchers on the planet. Here is where it gets interesting. In the early 2000s, researchers began studying who catches yawns from whom. What they found was not random. People are far more likely to catch a yawn from someone they are emotionally close to. A study led by researcher Ivan Norcia found that contagious yawning was strongest between family members, then friends, then acquaintances, and weakest between strangers. Read that again. Your susceptibility to someone else's yawn is in part a measure of your social bond with them. Your brain is not just seeing a yawn and copying it mechanically. It is responding more strongly to people it feels connected to. This points to something deeper. Many researchers now believe contagious yawning is linked to a process called empathy, specifically a basic, almost involuntary form of empathy rooted in something called mirror neurons. These are brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you watch someone else perform that same action. When you see someone yawn, a part of your brain responds as though you yourself are beginning to yawn, because on some level, your brain is simulating their experience inside your own body. This is not unique to yawning. It is part of a much larger system that allows you to understand other people without needing to be told what they are feeling. When you watch someone wince in pain, your face often tightens slightly. When you watch someone smile, you are more likely to smile too. Contagious yawning may simply be one of the most visible, least controllable examples of this deeper system at work. Now here is the counterintuitive twist. If contagious yawning is tied to empathy, you would expect that people who have a harder time reading social and emotional cues might be less likely to catch yawns from others. And that is exactly what some studies have found. Research involving children and adults on the autism spectrum has shown reduced rates of contagious yawning compared to neurotypical individuals, even though the yawn itself, the basic biological reflex, functions normally in both groups. This suggests that contagious yawning is not really about the yawn at all. The yawn is just the visible signal. What is actually happening underneath is a kind of unconscious social tracking, a constant low-level process where your brain monitors the people around you and, in small ways, begins to mirror their internal states. Think about what this means for your ancestors. For most of human history, people lived in small, tightly bonded groups. Survival depended on coordination. If one member of the group grew tired, it might signal that it was time for the group to rest, to find shelter, to settle in for the night. A yawn spreading silently through a group was not just an accident. It may have functioned as a kind of synchronization signal, a way for a group's internal states to align without anyone needing to say a word. Some researchers have proposed that yawn contagion may have helped synchronize sleep-wake cycles within social groups, particularly in primates that sleep together in close quarters. If one individual signals drowsiness through a yawn, and that yawn spreads through the group, the entire group may shift toward rest at roughly the same time. For animals that depend on group vigilance for safety, having everyone awake or everyone asleep at the same time rather than staggered and vulnerable could offer a real survival advantage. This reframes the yawn entirely. It is not just a sign that you are tired, it is a signal, broadcast outward, picked up by the people around you, quietly synchronizing the group's internal clock. And your susceptibility to catching that signal from someone else is, in a strange way, a measure of how socially bonded you feel to them. This is also why yawning across a video call can feel slightly different from yawning in person. Some studies suggest that yawn contagion is weaker through screens, possibly because the social and emotional cues that normally trigger your mirror neuron response are harder to pick up through a flat, low-resolution image. Your brain may be receiving the visual information that someone yawned, but without the full social context, the contagion effect is muted. So the next time you catch a yawn from someone, whether it is a friend, a family member, or even a stranger on the subway, pay attention to what just happened. Your brain looked at another person's body, simulated their internal state inside your own, and responded as though their tiredness were, in some small way, your tiredness too. You did not decide this. It happened below the level of conscious thought, the same way it has happened in highly social animals for millions of years. It is a tiny, almost invisible reminder that you are not as separate from the people around you as you might feel. Your nervous system is constantly listening to theirs, syncing in small ways you never notice, mirroring their state back into your own body. And that stranger across the room, the one whose yawn you just caught without meaning to? For a brief moment, your brain treated their tiredness as something worth copying. Not because you were tired, but because on some old and quiet level, you are wired to feel what they feel, even when you have never spoken a single word to them. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. That stranger across the room, the one whose yawn you just caught without meaning to. For a brief moment, your brain treated their tiredness as worth copying. Not because you were tired, but because some old, quiet part of you is wired to feel what they feel. It's not broken, it's just old. And it's been quietly syncing you to the people around you for millions of years. If this changed the way you see your own habits, subscribe. Because there's a lot more about your brain that you were never told. See you in the next one.